Hiya Petal Heads, I'm here in the backyard, the back garden slash food forest, because a little area of it we keep as ornamentals, and then the rest of it is the food forest, and we've got quite a few jobs to do today. First one we're going to do is we've got some, we bought a little pack of Verbena Obsession, and we've got 3 left over. The rest are in individual pots. We're going to put all 3 into one big pot now, so we'll just get those planted out. These type of Verbena, they should flower from about May all the way through to the first frost. They'll grow to about 8 inches tall, and they'll bush out to perhaps a little bit more than that, a little bit wider than that. They like a full sun position, and they're a brilliant little plant for either putting into pots like we are here, or you can use them as a bedding plant or around the outside of a hanging basket. So because it's such a hot sunny day today, until we get these planted out, I'm keeping them in the shade that this is giving it. So we've got 2 nasturtiums. These will both go into the food forest, and these will be part of the climbing or vining layer. I'll try and get them trailing up something, or encourage them to trail up something. And then we also have 2 white chards, and they will just be part of the ground cover layer. So I need to think where it's probably best for them to go. This bay, I have already made an attempt at turning it into a standard. You can see underneath there's the bare trunks. Well, we've got 1, 2, 3 stems. One of them's quite weedy, the one in the middle. So I might cut that out, lift the crowns, and have like 2 standards, which will effectively be pleached as well. I'll grow them into each other up at the top on overgrowth. So I think we'll start that process today. So we need loppers. Yeah, for now I think we'll just get the loppers out and we'll make a start. Right, so this one is going to come out. I think that's a water chute or a sucker anyway, and I'll probably leave the other 2 because they're quite substantial. I won't remove them, but for now we'll just get this water chute out. So I'm going to cut it down as close as I can. Alright. Now, I could take some cuttings off that. There's absolutely no reason why I couldn't. I just don't want to. I have made a video in the past about taking bay from cuttings. They take a long time. You can have a cutting in your cutting growing media for about a year before any even roots start forming, and we don't need another bay tree, so I won't be taking cuttings of this. I'll get this shredded and we'll use it as compost or mulch material. We're left with the 2 stems now. I'm now going to snip off some of the branches as close to the stem as possible, leaving the central leading shoot, leaving that because that's where we want our height from. And then up in the canopy, we'll raise the bottom of the canopy, and we'll end up with a shape towards the top of bay leaves from these 2 stems, which, like I said before, they will be pleached into each other to form one solid mass at the top from 2 different stems. So what do I mean when I say a standard tree? Well, a standard can be defined as an upright stem that hasn't got lateral growths or branches coming out the side, but supports quite a dense crown. So this is where it can get a bit more complicated, shall we say. Once you've got a standard type of tree, It then splits down into different categories of standard. So you've got a full standard, which in the UK is defined as the first 1.8 metres of the tree going up is just a straight trunk. There's no lower branches on the first 1.8 metres. Then you've got a half standard tree, where there are no branches on the first 1.2 to 1.5 metres of the trunk. However, this is where it gets complicated. On bay and olive trees, this is a bay tree, you can get what we call 3/4 standard trees, where the trunks are clear of branches up to about 80 or 90 centimetres. So this is a 3/4 standard. So already it's making a difference, it's letting more light into this corner.
This back one?
Yeah, get rid of that one as well, yeah. Some of you may have noticed that Ruby's doing this barefoot. Safety first, fun never. However, she's 11 years old, she won't be told.
This one?
Yes, go on, yeah, take that one off. And then on that tree, we'll leave it there for now and we'll have a really good look around and see what kind of shape we've got on the top before we go on to the second stem next to it. So, right, so the branches that we've left are a bit higher than those. There's a couple on that one we can cut off. Wait a minute, Roo. Let's have a look. And that's the kind of, if I step back actually, for full effect, that's the kind of shape that we're getting forming. It's more of a tree with like a canopy with all the growth at the top. Okay, yeah, that's taking shape, that. Right, let's cut off a few more, I think. Right, if you move, can you move on to the second stem?
This one?
Yeah, and then away from you, there's one sticking out horizontally to the right.
That back one.
Which one?
This one.
No, lower down. Lower down. There you go. As close to the upright stem as you can. That's it. Right, now just do a few more up. Some of them younger, greener ones. No.
Oh, these.
Yeah, that's the ones, Root.
It's hard to say.
I could also salvage some of the leaves off this and dry them out and use them for cooking, but again, we don't need to, we've got loads, so I probably won't. So you can see we've lifted it quite a bit there, and we're getting a bit of a shape at the top. Now what kind of shape that's going to end up as, I'm not really sure yet. I think we'll just let the tree guide us, if you will. We'll just see where it takes us. I don't know whether to go for a ball, like a lollipop standard, or do we go for like a rectangle shape, or what? I'm not quite sure, but yeah, we'll have a see. We'll have a see. An answer will present itself to us. These are all the chippings from the branches that we cut off the bay when we were turning it into a standard. I wasn't sure if I was just going to throw them onto the food forest just directly on the ground as a mulch, but then I thought, no, you know what, we always need more compost material, so we're making compost instead. It smells amazing. All these bay leaves. It smells like a really nice Sunday dinner or something. Right. I'd say there's quite a decent mix of what we call greens and browns there. Carbon rich material, the browns or the very woody bits, and the greens will be all the leaves. So what I'm going to do is, to help it really start cooking and composting, I'm going to wet it. And the moisture will help those decomposition bacteria, those bacteria that help break things down. It should actually get quite hot, this as well, once it starts decomposing. Right, that's had a good soak. Right, let's have a little bit of a tour as we're going round. So we've got a globe artichoke, the remnants of the wild garlic, there's a couple of them dotted around, a wild hazel, Corylus savellanus is it, and that's to be a complementary pollinator for the Kentish cob hazel that's over there. A couple of ferns, newly pruned bay. What else have we got? Ferns, rhubarb's doing alright. Sage with some chives, a bit more wild garlic, some flat leaf parsley, a couple of flat leaf parsleys in fact just there. Now that's not an edible, that's our heuchera called Caramel, and that's purely because I like it, I like the colour. A few raspberry plants at the back. Plum tree, let's have a look. We have got some plums on it. Can I find any? Yes. There's one. There's not a huge amount, but there's another one there. You got to look for him, but we have got some. They seem to disappear. I think birds are picking them before they're ripe. I'm sure they are. Right, lavender, doing alright. Lots of lovely green new growth on that. And on the other side of the field, oh, hang on, and the ubiquitous chives. We always like to have lots of chives everywhere, and there's a bee there at the moment. Oh yeah. Right then, on this side, the lovage has really put some height on, and we've got flower bud forming at the top. So that is screaming out to me meaning of plants video, and as soon as the flowers are open and I've filmed it for a meaning of plants video, I will then harvest some of it. Probably will use that in a stock. Right, what's that? Was that the little miniature raspberry? Yes, raspberry Ruby Beauty, and that's a small raspberry. No sign of any flowers, I don't think. Well, there's lots of new growth on it, so we'll see how that does. Daffodils, or the death of the daffodils. Hazel, something going as a weed there, that needs pulling out. Speaking of things need pulling out, as much as I love them, I'm going to get rid of these forget-me-nots that are just growing at the edge of the slightly raised brick planter. Alright, we've got a wild strawberry plant here. Lots of flowers on there, so we should get some fruit. Tiny little white thyme. Let's have a smell. Yep. Big strawberry. Oh, get rid of that. What was that? Marjoram. More lavender. A fuchsia. Again, not edible, but I suppose if I had to really sort of like weakly justify it, I could say that I'm sure it's James Wong that said that all the berries on fuchsias are edible. So, but we've never actually eaten any. Apparently they make a nice jam. But we'll see, we'll see. If nothing else, it's when it flowers, it'll be good for the pollinators. What's that? Blackcurrant. Not looking very good at all, that blackcurrant. Might have to replace that. Right, but now we'll get a little bit more interesting stuff, slightly exotic for me. We've got this chokeberry, which the flowers have been and gone. We're now getting lots of little berries forming. In fact, there's quite a few. So this will be if these do alright, this will be the first year we've ever had chokeberries. From what I believe, you don't want to eat them raw. They're not very nice, but they do, with lots of sugar, apparently they make a half decent jam. So we'll probably mix them up with some other fruits and have them in a jam. Right, what else? A sloe. Again, the flowers on that are blackthorn. The flowers have been and gone on that. Any sign of any little sloes yet? Can't see any. I'd have to have a really good root. What's that? That is a thornless blackberry. And then we've got the buddleia. Lots of height on the buddleia. No sign of any flowers yet, but they will come. Right, so behind me, we've got one of our 2 Chilean guava bushes. Lots of little berries forming on these. I don't know how well you can see them, but there's loads of little berries all the way up all of the stems. One of the lemon balms, rosemary, a verbena, bonariensis. I've got a few of these scattered around. Again, we're not going to eat them. It's mainly just for pollinators. It's part of it's just kind of like creating a system, an ecosystem. So I think I'm going to dig that out. That was a cutting from when I moved this rosemary bush out of the tyre, which we used to keep it in. When we planted it there next to our little pond, I snapped a bit off and just popped it in the ground, and it's growing. So I'll probably dig that up and replant it somewhere else. I don't really want it growing exactly where it is. What else have we got? There's the other Chilean guava. Right, some chives, rhubarb, lemon balm, lavender, more strawberry plants, a variegated sage, thyme, again more strawberries. Got a mixture of alpines and the big fat ones. It's oregano, is it? Or marjoram, I can't remember. Winter savoury, purple sage, comfrey patch. This is putting on some nice growth again after I've already taken one harvest from it to make some comfrey liquid feed, and again it's already growing and we're getting more flowers, so might even do another cutting in the next couple of weeks. Right, the Japanese flowering quince. Most of the flowers have been and gone. Can we see any little fruits on it? Where the flowers were? No, these fruits are edible, but they're not like the classic long, big fat stretched pear-shaped quince. They're not the, as it's Sidona oblonga. These are in the Camellies species, but the fruits are edible. They're like a small, greeny yellow, smaller than an apple. Right, so I've just been telling myself jobs there, haven't I? I'm going to pull up that rosemary and put it somewhere else. We've got quite a bit of space over in that part of the food forest, so I might stick the rosemary over there, I think. And then to the side of the food forest, going towards the garage, we've got honeysuckle starting to flower, just going up this trellis, and one of the 2 pear trees, I think this is the Santa Maria, loads of pears on it. Certainly far more than last year. We will see how many of these make it through to September-ish when we're looking at picking them, when they'll be ready. But for now, we've got quite a fair few on there, can you see? So we're quite happy with that. Right, these pots need weeding, but in there we've got some onions, flat leaf parsley, chard. Ooh, it's hard to tell for the weeds on some of these, to be honest with you. More parsley. They were the radishes that we grew in one of the Let the Chickens Choose challenge. So they're doing alright. Thing with pots though, you need to, especially in weather like this, you need to just make sure they don't dry out. some more onions, more parsley, and then here we've got potatoes in some plastic dustbins. No sign of any flowers on them yet, but they're growing really well, really strongly. And then the one at the back was one that didn't fire, so we popped a new one in, and it's not too far behind the rest of the plants. Right, yeah. I'm now digging up that rosemary cutting. It's got quite a long root on it actually, and quite a few side roots coming out. I was quite impressed. The main thing when you're transplanting plants like this and you're digging up a plant to put it somewhere else is try and get as much of the root ball on it as you possibly can. If for whatever reason you can't, one thing you can do to help the plant out, because obviously it's those roots that are supporting the life of that plant, so one thing you can do is to take off some of the height of your plant, give it a bit of a prune or a trim, and then there's less growth for the existing roots to support. And of course, anytime you plant something out, you should always give it a really good soak, unless you want to kill it. But why would you want to do that, you weirdo? There's 2 bees on this one chive flower. In the UK, we have roughly 270 different types of bees. So if you think you know what it is and you leave a comment telling me what types of bees they are underneath, there's a 270 to 1 chance that I won't believe you. Unless I see proof that you've got a PhD in entomology. Do you remember before I said we were going to plant some stuff out, and nasturtiums were one of the plants, and these will form part of the climbing or vining layer of the food forest, because the leaves, the flowers, and when the flowers go to seed, the little seeds, you can use them as like capers. They're all edible. So I think I'm going to plant this near this frame we put in for the raspberry plants, in the hope that it'll sort of like find its way up the frame and use it as a bit of a climbing trellis. The variety of nasturtium that I'm growing is Empress of India, and they've got a lovely strong deep red coloured petals on the flowers. Random fact, did you know the word nasturtium in Latin, it basically means nose twister, because when you eat them, they are quite peppery and fiery actually. So yeah, nose twister. And on a day like today, that needs a really good soak now, so. I'm taking care to water the soil and not the plant itself, because on a day like today, those water droplets that can get onto the leaves, when the sun shines through them, it acts as like a little magnifying glass and can actually burn holes through the leaves of your plant. Here's our other pear tree, growing in a plastic dustbin, similar size to what we're growing potatoes in over there. And again, this one also, we've got loads of pears on it this year. So we really got our fingers crossed. I think this was the Williams pear. Really got our fingers crossed that we get a fairly decent harvest of pears this year. We'll see how we do. Yet another potato that we're growing. This is just in quite a large pot. So crops in pots. What I'm going to do is top them up. But before I do that, I'm going to water the soil. And then when I put more compost on the top, it'll act as like a mulch and keep that moisture in, which will hopefully prolong the time needed before it needs another water, because the compost I'm going to add around these stems to fill the pot up will stop the sun evaporating this moisture off. Really good soak. Right, I'd say that's about it. So I'm going to get these chards planted out as part of the ground cover, so they will be closer to the sun, if you will, the front edge of the food forest, where they're not going to get shaded out by taller plants. So chard is related to spinach and beetroots. We use it as a cut and come again, meaning that when we harvest the chard, we don't harvest the full plant all in one go and then there's nothing else left. We'll grow several different chard plants and we will take a few stalks with the leaves on top from each plant, so you're never fully using up one plant at any one time. If the weather's really hot, they can have a tendency to bolt and go to seed, but the way you prevent that from happening is just make sure that they remain well watered. Other than that though, it's quite a hardy, robust plant. I mean, it will get knocked back a bit in the winter and it'll look like it's dead, but it'll amaze you how it'll start to regrow the following spring. If you don't pick the stalks and leaves on it as often as the plant would like you to, what can happen is some of the older stalks and leaves can start to go yellow. Just rip those off and compost them. Don't eat those. Only eat the nice, shiny, healthy looking leaves and stalks. It's too hot really out here to do any more today, so we're just gonna enjoy a nice lolly and let the dogs go mad for a bit. Don't let the dogs lick your lolly.